Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dope Interviews brought to you by 19 Media. I'm your host, Warren Shaw, and today on this week's episode, we are diving into the film space. As we're recording, the American Black Film Festival is popping, it is live, it is going on, and one documentary is making a lot of noise in this festival, and I'm so excited to have a special guest with us here today on Dope Interviews. We have Jennifer Holness, the director of Subjects of Desire. This film, this documentary, it captured my attention, captured my wife's attention as we were watching it. And we're like, yo, what a layered situation. Like I said, it almost has me speechless. Jennifer is here with us, the director. Just how are you, Jennifer? Like, congratulations on your success, but just how are you?
I am great. Thank you, Warren, for inviting me here. And I am so thrilled to hear that both you and your wife saw the film and your thoughts about it, because, you know, like I really wanted to make a film that would be a conversation piece within our community, and like, husband and wife, young people, generational, all of that kind of stuff. So this is like awesome.
So I could read a quick blurb. I can read what's been given to me in the press release and the whole nine, but I have you, right? You're here, you're with us. So in your own words, just what inspired you about this? You know, what was the genesis of this film for you?
So I have 3 daughters. And when they were a little bit younger, they're all teenagers. But when they were a little bit younger, teens, early teens, I witnessed something that was a little bit disturbing. It was one of my daughters who went to an all-girls school, of which there were only one other Black kid in her grade. I heard her friends talking with her about how they loved her booty and how they loved her full lips. And I thought, wow, this is like not when I was growing up. Nobody was loving the booty other than, within our community, and the whole lips thing. And so then I started to talk to her, so what are you feeling about this? And I actually thought I was going to get like, I'm popping, all of this kind of stuff. Instead, it was kind of like, it was definitely her discomfort with herself, with her, with her complexion, with her body, all of these things. And I was really sad. It made me sad because I thought, with all of this sort of like incredible Black celebrities that we can now look to inspire us, Viola Davis, Lupita, Beyonce, Rihanna, like the whole gamut. I thought like things had changed. And then I realized it really hadn't. And so then I thought I needed to look into why my daughter was feeling as negative about herself as I did when I was a girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm well past all of that. But when I was a girl, I felt those things, and I just wanted to look into that. And then I thought, Warren, I thought I'd seen a lot of docs about hair, and I'd seen some docs about colorism. And the ones that were really popular were often from Black men who I think didn't get the story right. I don't think they got the story right because it kind of blamed Black women. It made fun of us. And I just thought I wanted to do better. And I wanted to have a comprehensive look at what all of this was.
Well, it's almost like you're in my notes here, Jen, because, we're going to touch on some of those topics specifically, but we're going to go one step at a time, baby step this thing here a little bit.
Okay.
And no, but I think it's such an important answer. A lot of times you get your creative spark by what your personal experiences are, right? And it sounds like, you having to relive some of the things that happened to you, now see those things come back to fruition, for your own flesh and blood. And it's like, yo, let me do something about this. Let me try to, sound the alarm here on and actually what's going on. So congratulations to you, for that, and even to your family and your daughters for having the courage to speak to you openly and honestly about what they were feeling in that moment. I want to ask, just how long did this documentary take to put together in its totality?
Yeah. So what it was, so this was 2017. And I immediately said, I wanted to, I knew what I wanted to do. And so here's the thing, I have been in my career mostly a writer and a producer. I have produced, I don't know, like 6 or 7 feature docs and document TV docs, and including Michelle Stevenson, her latest film, Stateless, which just came out last year. But I hadn't directed a documentary in like a long time, like a very long time. And I work with my partner, Sud Sutherland, who's a director, and I produced his stuff. And so this is all just to say, when I decided I wanted to make this film, let me tell you, there wasn't this bandwagon saying, hey, Black woman, let me support you. In fact, it was kind of like, well, you're not known as a director, or, like a lot of white commission editors were like, I don't think this story is anything. Why are we caring about beauty? We should be concerned about economic success. Why do we want to have women objectified? And I'm like, I even had one woman say to me, oh, you're an attractive Black woman. You're more attractive than me. So this is a non-issue. I kid you not. I mean, I was so shocked. I was told it was a non-issue. And so I had to really battle this perception that this was not valuable or relevant, because it wasn't particularly the concerns that I'm assuming that white women had, because let's face it, what my documentary points out is that white aesthetics and beauty has been the standard for a very long time, right? And so I think as the standard, there was a sense that this wasn't a thing. And the harm and the narratives around Black women that have done so much damage, continue to do damage, continue to define how we're seen and our opportunities. Like, this was completely dismissed as irrelevant. And so it was about, like, it was a journey where, to be honest, my partner, Suds, was instrumental in me continuing this work and making this documentary, because if it was for those early voices, I would have just, stopped. But, again, I also couldn't, though, I just had to make it happen. So there were some challenges.
Well, thank you for your perseverance, really and truly. I mean, you hear stories like that, unfortunately, still way too much, where nobody wants to hear that, or that's not an issue when it comes to telling stories of, Black people in general, and even more specifically, the Black female. So again, it takes a lot of courage to kind of continue on and pushing through, and, very, very glad that you did. There are, listen, there are a lot of topics covered in this documentary. So when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, snap. Oh, damn. Oh, this too? Oh, we're going there? And it was just like, it kept kind of coming. Racism, colorism, hair texture, the perception of Black beauty just in general. How do you decide how much time to kind of devote to all of those topics that are in this?
Warren, that's a great question. I mean, I think here's the thing. I'm a bit of a structuralist, and so, which I'm very grateful for, because this was a very comprehensive look at Black female beauty. I was actually inspired by Ava DuVernay. I mean, she inspired so many people. But when she did the 13th, I thought, I am well versed in the prison industrial complex, but the way she put that film together, it gave us a context that I think other films might not have done. And I really appreciated that context, because I thought that context pinpointed some of the points of entry. And I said, in doing this film, without us peeling back the layers of where some of this came from, it would, in my mind, not lead to substantive conversations, beyond, I really like that film, or I got dissed by my hair and I feel the same way. So what I'm saying is that I knew off the top, I wanted to bring a context that we hadn't seen. And that meant going back to the source. So you go back to slavery, colonization, and then you go back there, and then what is very clear were these stereotypes, right? And these stereotypes, why those stereotypes were created, and to me, it led me into understanding why it's been important for the patriarchal white system to maintain those stereotypes, and the fact that in media they're so entrenched that some of us have taken them on as who we are to an extent that is actually not healthy for us. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that once I understood that I had to peel back the layers, I then had to really touch on the intersections of those narratives to how we felt about ourselves, right? So, the Jezebel, right? The mammy, okay, let's face it. I showed in the film a series of real mammies from historical times, slim women, well kept, all this kind of stuff. The narrative of the mammy that has been so beloved, has been sort of like, fat old Black woman. Nothing wrong with a fat old Black woman, by the way. Okay, but I'm just saying that narrative has been so well loved because there was a need for it. That need to show that we were just in service. And if we weren't in service, we were a threat. And then we were sapphires. And so, all of those things, though, were bound up in how we were allowed to present ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And so I really wanted to look at how they connected. The next piece, though, and I think this was really instrumental for me to figure out how to make the film, was I didn't want the film to be steeped in history. So when I came across the Miss Black America pageant and the Miss America pageant, and that those two historical events where protests were happening on the same day across the street from each other, but one was this seminal white female protest, of objectification of white women, and the other was Black women protesting to be seen as beautiful and to be valorized for all of her attributes. I just thought this had to be a part of the film. So that brought me into the world of the pageant. And of course, when you're talking about women and beauty, you have to look at things like colorism. You have to look at hair texture. You have to look at appropriation. So, I mean, it was organic. I mean, it's a long answer. I apologize. But there was a few things that I had to think about, and it actually was organic. And really, I hoped that I would have been able, I've been able to put all the pieces together where people got the story and didn't feel like I was veering off in too much places, No,
not at all. I mean, I think I'm always interested in the process, hence the question. And like, hey, how did we get to where we got to? And when you unpack all of those issues, and again, as a Black person in America, none of our issues are singular. I mean, there's layers and layers and layers to kind of everything that we deal with, on a regular basis. So, I mean, I thank you for that. One of the topics that you've just touched on it is kind of like those stereotypes of the mammy, the sapphire, the Jezebel. You use some imagery though, right? You use some imagery, you use some clips and some films and things of that nature. And I know I'm looking at it as, okay, well, these are just illustrations, not necessarily characterizations of like a Megan Good. Like, I think she's like, there's an Anchorman clip in there or like that. So you're not attacking these people who played these roles in these movies per se, but just kind of like, what is the feedback? Has there been criticism maybe in that space about some of the imagery that you might have used?
Well, so far, no. So far, no. In fact, so far, it's been incredibly positive. But here, when you look at that Anchorman clip, I mean, this is Megan Good. This woman is completely gorgeous, right? But look what the characterization, someone wrote that script, and they cast a Black woman there. And the idea, this Black woman, this wild sexual fiend that, wanting this man, first of all, let's be real here. Okay, sorry, my apologies.
Keep it a buck.
But that would be the role that they would want to give a beautiful Black woman, right? And who's sexy, but like there's no power, there's no agency. She's just this wild animal who is like enticing this poor innocent white man who can't help himself. It's not rape. It's he couldn't help himself because so I just thought it was just such a perfect example of the narratives that, over-sexualized, animalistic, wild, untamed, and for any Black woman, I read a lot of stuff, I didn't put it in, any Black woman who dates outside of the race, I can tell you, those are some of the things that people come in trying to date some Black women, trying to put upon Black women. So these narratives are here. Meg Thee Stallion, I love her. I absolutely love her. I think she's incredible, and how she's managed to build the career she has, first of all, with talent and that body, yaddy. The only thing I have to say though is that Megan, I want to see the different colors of Megan Thee Stallion. I think that Black women, the industry, have made it so that we are not able to always express ourselves in the multiple ways that white women get to express themselves. And that's what India Arie says, it's not to dog like Black women taking their power, but why is it that is often the number one way in which we are able to find success, particularly today, or as time goes on, it's actually becoming more and more entrenched. And I have to say, and this is maybe a little bit controversial, I do think historically, our men have not been cognizant enough about protecting us and creating a space where we are able to be many things in the entertainment space.
I would challenge you on only saying is that I don't think it's controversial. It's controversial if you're not paying attention. Like really, if you're not paying attention, then you're like, oh, well, who, me? No, bro, you, right? And I think that's very, very, very poignantly said. One of the things you alluded to and touched on a little bit was the agency to be whoever you are authentically. And I think that's what, again, some of the conversation my wife and I were having is like, well, if I was watching this and I was Meg Thee Stallion, would I feel attacked? Would I feel because, I'm sexual in my persona, so to speak, but there's a very different, at least in my opinion, so I don't want to put this on anybody. I think there's a very big difference between sexiness and raunchiness. And like, you can cross that line very, very easily, but I'm not saying that anybody's doing those things, but I think that's what I got out of it. I was like, hey, you can be who you authentically are, and you don't have to feel attacked by this. But we're in a very sensitive place in society right now. Let's call it that. So I think people can feel like, hey, is she talking about me? So kind of like, what would you say to that? Because you're saying, hey, there's agency in it, but there's also limits to everything that you do as well, too, right?
Well, yes. My attack is on the system and the structures.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the system and the structure wants Megan to only be this. And here's the thing, if Megan just wants to be sexy all the time, you go, girl. But here's the thing about me, as a woman, and I'm, well past being able to get down on the floor and like do that thing. So, with the knees, I don't have the knees. But here's the thing. I think that Black women, like all women, but Black women in particular, we are a sum of many parts. We bring a lot to the table. We bring compassion, beauty, groundedness, strength, kindness. Why is it then that all these other attributes that we bring to the table is rarely featured when we are being cast in certain spaces? So I what I'm saying is, like, because I think women come in so much, each individual woman has so much parts to her. Why are we not seeing those other parts? And I suggest the reason we aren't is because there's these boxes, there's these narratives, and they box us in, and and it's dangerous, and it harms our young people in particular, right? It actually harms us. I had a screening recently at TIFF Lightbox, and everybody knows the Toronto International Film Festival, big deal. And it was really incredible. After the film, this wonderful Black woman put her hand up and she said, I have a daughter and she wants to be an anchor person. She wants to be in front of camera. She's beautiful and she has really great hair. And about 5 years ago, she went natural, and her hair is actually down to her back and it's natural. And I said to her, and I've been saying to her, if you want to be successful in this industry, you can't have that hair. What are you doing? This is not the hair you need to have. And she said, and after I watched your film, I'm going to call my daughter and apologize.
Wow.
Because, because she got it. She understood that there were narratives that she had bought into that told her what a professional, appealing Black woman looked like. You know what I'm saying? Now, look, I know a lot of sisters that have already embraced the natural and so forth and whatnot and all that. But generationally, there's some of us, many of us actually, who have tried to put ourselves into pretzels to fit into, spaces for success. Right? This film is telling, I think, audiences why those spaces were created.
Very well said. Very well said. We're chatting with Jennifer Holness, director of the documentary Subjects of Desire. Be sure to follow her on social at her name, Jennifer Holness, and follow the film at Subjects of Desire doc. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Warren Shaw here, and when I bet at MyBookie. Go to MyBookie and they will double your first deposit. Use my promo code at MyBookie, and my promo code is DOPE. That's DOPE, DOPE for dope interviews, of course. And you can claim that deposit bonus here today. A lot of people think about MyBookie and think it's only about sports, and let me tell you, it is not. They have prop bets that you can utilize for movies, politics, and even current events. If you have a friend, even better. You can use your referral link after you use my promo code, of course, and use that referral link to send to your friends, and you can receive up to 250% additional bonus dollars from MyBookie. That's MyBookie using my promo code DOPE, DOPE, and you claim your deposit bonus here today. Bet anywhere, bet anytime, bet all the time at MyBookie using my promo code DOPE. And we're back with Jennifer Holness discussing Subject of Desire, this many, many layered documentary. Jennifer, the cast is dope. Like, it represents intelligence, professionalism, and of course, beauty. Just how did you go about this ensemble kind of group of such great female leading women out here? Just like, how did you get everybody together like this?
Thank you for that, actually. So in some ways, the pageant, the Miss Black America pageant, is the spine of my film. And I always intended to be the spine of the film. I hoped it would be the spine of the film. And when I reached out to the Miss Black America folks, they were really kind enough to let me come and film some of the pageant, the 50th anniversary pageant. So already, just going in a space of beautiful Black women represented in different looks, heights, sizes, and these women who supported them, each other. Already, you're gonna have like talent galore, right? Ryan Richardson, for example, who wins the Miss Black America pageant, just class. Soraya Nicole, who is this tiny little girl who didn't wear heels, with her incredible fro and this voice. Right.
Yeah,
the voice. She was, I had no plans on using any of the music from any of the contestants. But when she sang for us, I said to her, I need to have your voice in my film. So talent, right? Alex Germain. I have to tell you a little story. She was the second runner-up, and she's in the desert. She's this beautiful young woman and so talented. And I was watching The Harder They Fall just recently, and I'm looking, and there's this scene on the road, and there's this gorgeous Black woman, and she's sort of like she's an extra in the world, but she's standing there, and I'm like, that's Alex. So
is she in it for real?
She's in it for real.
Oh damn!
Like,
I haven't watched it yet, so don't know.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. But so, and her thing is that she wants to be an actor. So I'm just saying talent. So that was it. Then let's talk about India Arie. I really, really wanted India Arie in this film, and for I think obvious reasons, Black folks, I think you get it. But for me, I remember when Video came out. And I remember feeling like she was speaking to me. Yeah. She was speaking to a lot of women that looked like me. And here was the range of talent. It's like Lauryn Hill too. The range of talent that comes in the Black community that, can be celebrated. And so I really wanted her in the film. I did not know India, but I knew a guy named Lyric Bent, who is a wonderful, talented actor who starred in some of my earlier films that I produced, and who's a good friend. And he was in a music video with India. And I called him up and I'm like, babe, you're in this music video with India. Can you help me? And Lyric Bent stepped up, got India to talk to me, got her people to talk to me. Word. And that is how I got her in the film. And I'm grateful. And I love this man and I love India. So that was really terrific. There were some, academically, there were some incredible women that I wanted to talk to. Dr. Cheryl Thompson, she's the one that she's in the film, throughout the film, but she talked to me about gosh, so many things she talked about. She was the one that talked about how she took this photograph for her TED Talk. And
then they made her,
right. And I just thought though, and she's written a book, Beauty in a Box, about Black hair, and her knowledge, her historical knowledge was so extensive. And so, so there was just like, I think for me, I looked to people who I felt would really resonate more so than celebrity. Although I did try to get Miss Lupita to narrate the film for me, and it didn't happen. I love Lupita, so I'm hoping that if not this one, the next one. But so that I think that's probably the only person who I didn't get that I really wanted to get for the film. I have Rachel Dolezal in the film, which is controversial to some.
All right. We're going to get to Rachel here in a quick second. So, in a quick second, I wanted to touch on this one thing though, as well too, because you touched on it like kind of like way back in the beginning. the male voice is kind of muted in your documentary, and that's obviously on purpose. And
Yes.
we don't need any mansplaining or anything like that to kind of take place in this situation. But again, that was by design. I know there are some quotes, and Malcolm X says, the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. I think those things resonate. But that can't, just kind of going back to your earlier point, and that it was like you didn't feel like the guys weren't doing it justice. So that's why they have no part in your documentary. It's like you had your chance, stand off to the side, let me do this thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's sad. Like I said, I've been married to a Black man for many, many years who I adore. And I like Black men a lot. But when I started making this film, I didn't know immediately that I would not have any Black men in the film speaking except Malcolm X, right? That was not my original intention. And I started, researching and going online, and some of the things that Black women were writing about Black women, that Black men were writing about Black women terrified me. I didn't know because look, I'm not on social checking dudes out and all this kind of stuff. So it was gross. It was painful. It was hurtful. And Alex said it, in the film, she says, she's not really seen other communities of men say, I don't date Hispanic men. I don't date white women. Okay, you actually find that once in a while now, actually. Some of you finding some white brothers are like not, but because I started to hear that. But no, but it was really alarming. And here's why Malcolm X is in the film. Not just because he's Malcolm X and the legacy in which he's left us, the power of his voice and his words and his deeds. It's not just because of all of that, but that clip was taken from him giving a lecture to a women's group, because Malcolm believed that that Black beauty, that it was in fact something that we Black men had to step up for. He thought that it was a part of the social justice movement. It was political for him, right? So it wasn't just some random speech that he was giving, right? He believed in a separate Black pageant that honored Black women, right? So when I found that out, I was like, this is why Malcolm gets to speak in this film. And plus, he's freaking brilliant. And then I wanted the absence of Black males to have someone ask me, why were there no Black men speaking in the film? And Warren, you're the first person to ask me that question. I wanted Black men to ask me that, you know what I'm saying? And because I love my brothers, right? I'm disappointed sometimes. I was thinking about, recently we were talking about Ashanti and how Ashanti had like an entire album that was hers. And then J-Lo, who we all love, came into the picture. And then J-Lo got to re-record a bunch of her songs and was then, launched with those songs.
Yeah.
That's some doggedy thing. And that was done by a Black man.
Wow. It's frustrating. There's a lot of things that we do to our own people, that, we shouldn't be proud of. And then it's kind of, like you said, kind of done in the dark. And, it can be explained away for purposes of business or whatever the hell. But I think the tide needs to be turning. I don't necessarily know that it is, but it should be. And I think your documentary, especially in the way that it's done, because it's one of the things I picked up on for sure. And I didn't feel any type of way about it, because again, I think like you, I've said, hey, we have our chance. We as males, we get a lot of opportunities to do whatever we want to do. And we don't need to be injected into every single thing. Like, sit back and shut up and learn something. And that's basically kind of like how I felt about this documentary specifically. I know we're running short on time here, we're running over. It's been like so amazing. Just wanted to get one or two more quick ones in here, with you as well, too, kind of like touching back on Rachel. And then obviously there was like the things that kind of caught me, the imagery as well, too, the IG models. People go out here like, this wish is the true appropriation, you know what I mean, of the culture and then the skin color and the whole nine. And I loved what Dr. Thompson had said also about Rachel, like, hey, I have no problem with her, but acknowledge where the hell you came from, you know, in that regard as well too. Was Rachel kind of easy to work with? And, you know what I mean, was she just very willing to talk, or did you have to kind of coax her a little bit?
You know, she was easy to talk to. I found her easy to talk to, actually. I found her vulnerable, and I found her in a hurt place. I think that I don't agree with how she went about things, but in talking with her, and she was generous with me, to be honest, you know. I would have loved to hated her, but I didn't. I think that, you know, she loves Blackness, you know, Black culture, you know, Blackness. And she spent 10 years living as a Black woman on, like, she didn't slip out of it to go to, like, you know, to the South. she
I know what you mean, though.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She did that. And, like, again, do not agree. And it's like Dr. Thompson said, you know, own up to it from the get-go, because, you know, we don't get the privilege of slipping in and out or being or choosing. And let's face it, as a Black woman, and this is something I did say to her, and she never really addressed it, as a Black woman, quote unquote, she got to be a light-skinned Black woman, which is very valorized in our community, right? So, you know, so there's some major problems. But I found her, I found her genuinely expressing her comfort and her sense of selfness in a Black community.
Listen, I mean, we could do a whole nother episode and show on that in that of itself, because I think there are some parallels, and I don't want to overstep per se, but you know how people feel like, I was born to be this, I was, you know, I feel I am this or that, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's where she kind of maybe identifies that this is how she feels her experience should be. And, you know, you can relate that to LGBTQ initiatives and things of that nature as well, too, kind of in that space. But we don't have time to go down that path. That's a whole other conversation for a whole other day.
It really is.
So before I let you get out of here, Jennifer, just what are you working on next? Like what we got?
Yes, I am working on a new documentary called No Harm. And I mean, I think this is a popular topic right now, but it's about the medical terrorism that have been enacted on Black women. And the stories are too numerous to count, but I'm trying to find a way to tell the story that has context and will impact. And because I do think that this whole beauty thing, it strips you from your power and lack of protection. And that lack of protection makes it easy for you to die in the streets and in official places like hospitals, and no one notice for decades upon decades. So I think that it's thematically, it resonates with me because of making this other film. So that's something that I'm really excited about and passionate about. And, you know, and also I'm working up here in Canada, and a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the early Canadians, of which was quite a substantial community, were African Americans. And everybody thinks Canada is like, oh, they cross the Underground Railroad and like, rah, they're safe and they're happy. And so I aim to dispel that myth and to actually show an entire history of Black people that has been erased in Canada and why it was erased, and some of the real stories of Black folks here in Canada. So that's some of the thing I'm working. It's called BLK, an origin story. So those are two things that I'm working on that I'm very excited about.
You know why you're amazing? You're not worried about making friends. You're gonna ruffle these feathers, and these feathers are gonna get ruffled. That's what it boils down to. You're here to shine a light on the truth and what has been happening, and you don't care. And I think unapologetically dope. That is amazing. I'm sure you're gonna kill it. Listen, I can't wait to see both of those projects and how they come out. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to my guest, Jennifer Holness. Jennifer Holness here, the director of Subjects of Desire, like making all the waves in the American Black Film Festival and kind of everywhere right now. She's in Toronto, she's everywhere. Check it out. It's amazing. I'm your host, Warren Shaw. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been another dope interview. We'll catch you next time.
Dope.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation. Understand me?